G'day fellas and welcome to a casted game. We are here on Lipany to witness two of the world's best players take each other on in a little bit of a ranked battle. Let's get down into it, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be a good one. Spawning in over on the east side of the map in the color purple, playing as the Abbasid dynasty again. It's Corvinus 1, aka the Wallalol God, aka Salami. You would be familiar with him from his many antics, Outback Octagon 1, 2, all the good stuff. Let's check in on our second player, spawning in on the west side of, oh my lord, spawning in on the west side of the map, there we go. Playing as the color yellow in the Chinese, it is Voldemar the Kid. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Lipany, a pleasure to have your company. We got two civilizations that like to boom, that like to get their ecos on, so if you haven't already, go get yourself a drink. I might get myself a drink right now. Give me a... there we go. Get myself a drink. Put your legs up. I'm going to put my legs up as well. Leave a like on the video. And let's get into it. Let's talk a little bit about this matchup and about what we might see today. So, starting off, I want to just talk a little bit about philosophy here. And about how the Abbasid dynasty typically does not want to get caught in a feudal age fight against the Chinese. And the reason why that is because of the Zhuge Nu. The Zhuge Nu is an incredibly powerful unit against specific types of units. And one of those units is the camel archer in this case. It's got a lot of damage on it, it's got a lot of health on it, but not quite a lot of armor. And that means that the Zhuge Nu does very well against it. There's not really much that you can do against the Zhuge Nu as the Abbasid dynasty. So it's normally in your best interest to avoid those long drawn out feudal fights and focus on maybe going castle age instead. And by the same token as the Chinese, I think naturally you want to make your way to castle anyways. Any matchup where you can get away with going for a 2-town center Song Dynasty fast castle, then you will typically do that. And I suspect for Voldemar here, the case is definitely going to be that. Not only does he have the Chinese, but he's got a beautiful layout today. Have a look at this spawn. Walls across here, barely spending about 40 wood. Walls towards the top side, exact same deal, maybe 50 wood for those ones. And then we get a couple walls going in along here, maybe another wall, throw one down on this angle here, and you are completely walled in. Feels good to be a gangster, that is for sure. And I tell you what, Voldemar is going to be feeling like one. I tell you what, if this game continues to go the way it is going, because we've got an eco wing coming out, and that means Corvinus is probably looking for 3 TCs, which is the right call here. If I'm playing as the Abbasid dynasty, I'm definitely going into 3 TCs in this matchup, and the thinking behind that is quite simple. You're up against the Chinese, there's a good chance they're going to go 2 TCs, but they're not really going to go more than that, and if they do, they're making a mistake. So you want to try and outdo them, but not by a huge amount, just enough that you're going to be safe in the late game. So the third town center is exactly what you need. On top of that, you've also got the discount. You know, throwing in that second additional town center means that you've just got that extra discount playing into it. But one thing to note here is that Voldemar has opened up with an Imperial official in the Dark Age, which is getting a little less common these days than it used to be. But only the one villager on the landmark, the Imperial Academy. So I'm expecting we're probably going to see 5 vills probably moving out to put down that Barbican. Oh, actually, you probably could even go with like a 3, but just mainly because you're going to be walling it here. I suspect he's probably just going to put the Barbican on the stone. It's probably the best spot for it. Yeah, probably makes either that or you go for the gold, but even then the gold doesn't really make that much sense. It's so far in the back of the base. At least over here you can throw the Barbican down over on this angle and then throw your farms in, so it gives a little bit of coverage from any potential raids. But we do see the vills beginning to move out, and it looks like it will be in this direction here. So it looks like he might even go out a little bit further, thinking about throwing it down on the deer. Let's check in on the other side of the map as the age up has now come through. It's going to be the Eco Wing, and immediately we see the upgrades on the way. Fresh foodstuffs through straight away. Fertile Crescent coming up the rear. Only 6 gold in the bank. He's completely stopped collecting gold. So just going to be picking up those 2 technologies. I'm loving it so far. We used to see the Ice Age build where you'd also pick up the wheelbarrow as well during the transition period, but obviously hasn't gone for that one here. Just says, you know what, we're just going to keep it simple and make sure that we just only grab the necessary things. But pretty big transition over onto stone. So it does have that reduced price now on the town centers. 280 wood, 245 stone. So very nicely discounted. On the other side, the Barbican is slowly but steadily coming up for Voldemar. He does have 3 vills on the Barbican, and now starting to rally out the villagers over onto stone. There's a lot of vills down here on wood. It looks like he's made a bit of a mistake in moving these vills when he did. Normally what we want to do is gather up enough wood on the straggler tree so that we can put a lumber camp down. So he's had to do a little bit of long distance gathering right here. But it's one of those small little mistakes that in the end probably isn't going to make that much of a difference. So not a big deal in the scheme of things. But Song Dynasty now coming online for Voldemar. That's going to mean faster training villagers for him. 1 villager every 15 seconds instead of 1 villager every 20 seconds. So it means over the course of a minute, you're producing 1 more villager than your enemy. But do note that we've got a second town center already coming up here for Corvinus. In the event so that it does get to 3 TCs for Corvinus and 2 TCs for Voldemar, Voldemar will be making 8 vills every minute, and Corvinus will be making 9 vills every minute. So they're very, very similar when it comes to the power levels that they've got. When it comes to their power spikes, though, which is a little bit different, I would say that the Abbasid power spike, it's probably early castle. At least that's when it feels most potent when you're doing something like this. Just because you've got the ability to really get quite a lot of Ghulam's out. Look to do a little bit of raiding as well with the Lancers towards the top side. I'm sure once they come through and you've got a couple relics, you'll be feeling really good about yourself as the 3rd TC. Now coming, gosh, this TC is so fast. 6 minutes, 3 TCs. Jeez Louise, that is quick. Oh my lord, that is actually insane how quick that is. That's actually faster than the 2nd TC from the Chinese. Yeah, look at this. Doesn't even have the 2nd TC from the Chinese. That's kind of wild, because this is a pretty standard timing. I mean, the most optimal timing you can get with the current meta, I'm pretty sure is about like 6 minutes and 5 seconds. Maybe 6 minutes and 10 seconds. So he's doing 620, which is absolutely great. But 3 TCs? That's kind of wild coming out from Corvinus. I'm so impressed with that. I'm kind of tempted to go back and watch and see exactly how that was. But beautiful little deer push that's come through here from Voldemar. Everything's nice and comfy underneath the Barbican. And both of these players, I suspect, are just going to be going straight to castle. I don't think you're going to see any pit stops here with things like stables or archery ranges. I think they're just both going to be going straight for it. Which leads to the question, does Corvinus contemplate going for a fast Imperial? Just simply because by the time he gets to Castle Age, he's going to have so many resources stocked up, he'll have enough to go Imperial almost. So that could be an option for him. I don't think he will, though. Be very bold to do that, because that's when the Chinese spike. The Chinese spike in early Imperial. The longer the game goes on, I think the better it probably gets for the Chinese. But the Abbasid are obviously great contenders. They've got insanely powerful units. Once the gold starts running out, of course, they've got access to a huge raft of technologies. Most importantly, they've got composite bows, which increase the attack speed of your archers. They've got boot camp, which increases the infantry health. That's every single infantry unit, your archers, your men-at-arms, your spears. But then, in addition to that, they've also got camel support, which gives you an extra 2 armor, and that's melee armor and ranged armor. So as long as you've got a camel nearby, you're feeling good about yourself. So these are some small little upgrades that can really start to stack up, especially for units like the archer, when you can have, you know, an extra 2 armor, an extra 25, is it 25 or 33% attack speed? Let me double check that. Extra 33% attack speed, and of course the extra 15% health as well. But we do start to see these walls coming up. It looks like he's gone quite aggressive with these walls as well. Gets them nice and close. And on the top side, Corvinus is going to be walling in Voldemar. It is very much a case of sit back and relax at this stage of the game. I've still got my legs up. I haven't taken a drink yet. Give me a sec, guys. I cracked her open, but I didn't take any sips just yet. I got to test this one out, see how we're doing. That's a 10. That's a 10. I hope you're familiar with the "that's a 10" meme. If you're not, go and bless yourself right now. Google "that's a 10." And watch the YouTube video. It's a dude tasting ice cream. And, well, let's just put it this way. That's a 10. Have a look at these walls coming up for Corvinus. He's kind of playing... What's it called? Pin the tail on the donkey? Nope. Tic-tac-toe? Nope. The dots, and you connect them. Connect 4. No, connect the dots. We got it. We got it. What do you... It's called Connect 4 in the United States, right? I remember it's got, like, I watched a YouTube video about it. Apparently the game has been solved. Like, you can always win that game if you are the player that goes first. Every single time you can win it, no matter what. It's kind of like tic-tac-toe in a way. Like, you can always win it no matter what, if you know what you're doing. How do we even get onto that? Oh yeah, that's right, connect the dots. That's kind of wild. And then the second player can always draw the game if there's one. I don't remember. All I know is the first player can always win the game, no matter what, if it's played perfectly. If both players play perfectly, the first player will always win, which is kind of wild. Yeah, I guess it's a little less complex than something like chess, isn't it? military wing now going to be coming up over on the east side of the map for Corvinus 1. So, going to be moving into... Well, there's no real surprise here, but have a look at this. No military production buildings coming down. Does have 16 on wood for the moment. Of course, does have that golden age that's come through. Only the level 1 so far. No double broad axe just yet. And I think he's looking to try and rely on the walls here to justify not making the military. But if this wall doesn't get up... I mean, there's a good chance this is getting up though, right? Like, that's the other thing to note. So, Lance is coming through. Hold your horses. Hold your horses. Okay, okay. We've got a connection. We've got a connection. Looks like he's going to be fine. He gets through with about 7 or 8 seconds left. 8 seconds earlier, and that Lancer would have had some magic under its belt. All right, Corvinus now. Where is it, mate? Let me see it. Is he just going straight to him? No, no, no. We've got production. We've got production. All right, I was getting a little bit concerned there. I'm like, this is starting to look a little bit scary. He's just going naked fast Imperial. Meanwhile, for Voldemar, we start to see more production coming up for him as well. It looks like double racks. No real surprise there. Palace Guard's going to be the main focus of the military. Of course, they're very, very strong, the Palace Guard. Fast unit, very versatile in their abilities. Just an all-round amazing unit. Probably my favorite unit, in fact. It's the one reason I keep coming back to the Chinese. It's the Palace Guard. Have a look at this. It looks like a gate was attempted to be thrown up by Corvinus, and Voldemar got a quick cheeky torch in before the gate could be started. Sieges it down. But the camels were there to meet him. So it meant that he had to fall back. Spears now going to start getting mixed in. Look at this, a huge amount of spears. Now both of these are within the area of effect of the Imperial Academy. Look, not perfect base layout. I'm going to have to give him probably a 5 out of 7 on that one. But, you know, there's always some improvement that can be had. Hardened Spearman now coming through. You can see it barely does any damage to the Camel Rider. They've just got so much health, these Camels. They got a lot of bonus damage as well against Cavalry. Keep that in mind. Double Spears now going to be coming out and meeting them. And a third Spear. 4 Spears now chasing. More Spears coming through. That's the second Relic on the way in. Keep in mind, he did pick up the one from the south side. So 2 Relics in favor at the moment of Voldemar. And you can start to feel those units rolling off the blocks. Let's take a look at the income per minute, get a bit of an idea on where these two are at as the Wolf slowly goes to work on the backside. Warwick, you know what to do. Speaking of Warwick, I'll tell you what, it's been a while since I played League, but I've got like a close group of friends, and I'm on Discord with them occasionally. I talk to them, see how they're doing, and they're always playing League. And every time I jump in there, they're like, you know, Drongo, please, man, don't do it. Don't do it to yourself. You don't want to play this game again. They're all so addicted to it. They hate it so much. They tell me every time, and I know where they're coming from. I've been in that hole before. But speaking of holes, have a look at this. Corvinus maybe in a bit of a hole at the moment. He's got Gulams on the way. Look at the amount of resources in the bank. Is it just not enough production, or maybe just can't make enough production fast enough? It could be the case. He's got a pretty good economy going for himself at the moment. Spear number starting to build here. Are we moving into Spear Crossbow? It looks like we are. Spear Crossbow together with a Nesta Bee. It is the dream combo. It's my favorite combo by far. I absolutely love it. It's just such a strong combo. Nothing really loses. Or it doesn't really lose to anything, and it's very versatile to move in and out of. Of course, always able to mix in a couple Palace Guards here and there, or make more siege. And especially feels good playing as the Chinese doing it, because you've got Nesta Bees with that extra health pool. Now that Nesta Bees firing off towards the Ghulam. It's only the single Ghulam moving forward. He's going to try and get some shots on the backside. Imam looking to pick up the Relic. Does manage to find it. Spear's going to be looking to chase it. Oh, it's going to be dangerous. The Wallalol God looking to commit. Not going to be able to find it, though. The Relic falls to the ground. And he does now have the ability to go in the backside, sweep it up. Lancers are now arriving as well. Ghulam's going to attempt to try and turn the table when it comes to the religious side here. And you can see he's just doing a little bit of a run around here. He knows that he's in trouble if he picks up that Relic. He can try and do a little bit of a dash and crash, but it's not going to work. Clock Tower and Nesta Bees now going to be falling back. Could look to pick up that Relic now on the backside. I don't even know where did that... I don't even know where the monk went at this stage. Is it even there? I think it might have gone down. He's got one alive still somewhere, but maybe it's back in the base. Yeah, it's back in the base. I don't know. That's got to be a different one. There's no way that's the one. That's got to be the one that ran through past the boar earlier, or it was a wolf, wasn't it? Yeah. Don't worry. Uncle Drongo doesn't forget about that. Mangonel on the backside. And this is something you've always got to be so careful of doing, right? Like on one side, you've got the Chinese with very strong siege, and on the other side, you've got the Abbasid dynasty with a lot of siege. So you have to be extra careful, extra careful about this kind of potential. Let's just say that much. Spear's getting taken out, though. Third relic is indeed picked up. That's going to be the 5th and final relic of the game, as Corvinus now has 2 in his name, Voldemar with 2, and the final one on the way back. Vil's going to be careful, though, not to be caught out of position. Another outpost going to be thrown down towards this north side. Let's check in with Corvinus and see how he's doing as he begins to transition Vils down over onto this south side. A lot of Vils on gold, and a lot of Vils on safe gold. I would have loved to have seen these Vils move towards the center, towards this gold vein, and then like a large gold or a larger keep thrown down. But he's already up towards this northern position as well. As long as he's spreading himself out, I think that's the most important thing. Last thing that you want is your gold to be starved out and your opponent to be happily mining in their base because they left theirs until the end. Market getting thrown down. Don't tell me he's already starting to think about trade. We're 15 minutes into this game and the madman is already thinking about trading. He's got the walls up to secure it as well. Outposts along the backside. Looks like there is technically an opening for Corvinus to get through, but he would need God vision if he wanted to be sure, if he wanted to be sure that he could get through there. Oh, Imperial Palace now going to be coming down for Voldemar as well. Let's check in with Corvinus. Numbers are starting to look good for him. He's on 100 villages. First to cross that threshold. Sacred sites now starting to be captured as well. He's taking the first one up towards the north. Central one now being contested here. I'd love to see a couple of keeps thrown down here. I think this is the great time to do it as well. Right as he's thinking about this transition, and look at this. Wonderfully done. Exactly what he needs to do. Maybe even think about getting some stone walls up along this bottom side, just to make yourself feel a little bit more safe from that potential raid, because now that there is the threat of fire lancers coming out on the field, we do need to be really, really careful about potentially losing villagers to fire lancer raids. But one thing to note, though, is the siege power coming out from the Chinese. It's not the greatest at this point. There's a lot of infantry here, a lot of spears, a lot of crossbows, but not a whole lot of siege. Only the one springled, only the one nest of bees. So I think that's definitely something that he could look at potentially transitioning into more. Jeez, I've been having some trouble with that word today. But don't worry, we'll get there eventually. We'll get there eventually. We always do. How long has this wolf been in the backside? Or did it only just get attracted then? There was another wolf over here, but it looks like that one's gone down. Do have a bit of a farm transition coming through. Granary with a lot of farms, a lot more than I'd like to see. Normally, I'd just like to see 12 farms around a granary, but if you want to go for 20, then be my guest. Moving out towards the middle. A lot of resources still out on the map. And plenty of siege now starting to come online for Corvinus. 4 Springolds, 1 Mangonel. Definitely feels very good as the Abbasid player. Especially because I'm pretty confident he knows what the count is. Yeah, he can see exactly what's going on here. And look, he could actually get a nice little heads up on the shots here if Voldemar's not careful. But fortunately, he is careful. Does manage to spot those units' movement out just before they arrive. Now, one other thing to note is that Voldemar does have the ability to get Imperial spies. He's already utilized it this game so far, so we can't see him do it. But I assure you, he's spotted out exactly where those enemy villages are. He's in a bit of a tough spot. Down 15 military pop at this stage, or rather down 15 pop at this stage of the game, and will potentially lose his Imperial Palace. Springald's now going to be moving up. Keep in mind, these are Clock Tower Springolds. They got a little bit more health than the average bear. Nest of Bees needs to be careful. Wants to avoid being picked off at this stage. Needs to try and save it for the fight. You know that he's got more units in queue, more siege in queue. I'd almost be tempted at this point to throw down a secondary siege workshop. Oh, it's exactly what he's doing. Very well played. And now just spamming Springolds from that. So I think that's definitely the play. You want to get like 2-3 more Springolds out. And ideally you want to avoid the fight. You need to get that Springold number starting to push up it. We'll get into it, ladies and gentlemen. It's time, as it looks like the battle is well and truly beginning now. Crossbows on the back, having a decent time up against these Gulams. It's important to remember that the spears for Voldemar are not being countered by these crossbows. It's only really the Gulams that are doing work, but the crossbows are having a very nice time. Keep in mind there is a Mangonel back here. If it can manage to find its way through, it's got a beautiful shot that it can go for. If it manages to connect, watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out. It goes for the front row though. A little bit of a mistake coming through there from Corvinus one. And unfortunately, the Nest of Bees for his opponent still stands quite strong. Barbican doing a decent job, I suspect, of picking off the enemy springs. No, I don't know how these springs are getting taken out, but surely that's going to be the way. And you can see how little damage that Springald is able to do. And yeah, it is the Barbican. You can see the Barbican taking out the Springolds. That is the power of the Barbican. We talked earlier about positioning that Barbican, about how you didn't want that Barbican over near the gold because it wasn't really that useful, whereas here it's in a perfect little spot. His enemy pushes in underneath it and he's able to utilize it as a counter to enemy siege. So very nicely held there by Voldemar despite not having the siege advantage. So lovely played by him. Let's check in and see how Corvinus is doing. Whether we've got some Imperial Ages coming through shortly, I would suspect that we probably do. I'd say we're closer to it than anything. 180 pop versus 172. So I think once these keeps come up, it's very hard to push past these without getting into bombards, because you got to remember that to take down a keep, you're looking at least 2 trebs. The problem is, if you've got 2 trebs, that's 6 population. Then you're going to need springalds to try and... Your enemy's going to need springalds to counter them, which they're probably going to have. And there's the culture wing. So he does look to go into that option. And it definitely makes sense in this situation going into the culture wing. He'll look to have things like medical centers. This will be really nice. One of the things to note about why medical centers is so good is because it doesn't actually care about whether the unit is in combat. So if you've ever played the English and you played with the Abbey of Kings as an example, you can put your units that are damaged underneath that, but if they're in the middle of a fight, it's not going to heal them up. And it's the same with the King. The King won't heal those units up, but with the medical centers, it doesn't care. The medical centers just allow or just continue healing no matter what. And I really like that. I think that's a great mechanic, and I think that that is a much more user-friendly mechanic, right? Like, I don't like the idea of... I mean, I say that I don't like the idea of fighting underneath something and not having it healing me when it could be healing me. But then it's like, imagine you're on the receiving end of that, right? Like, it doesn't feel good to be on the receiving end of, like, enemy units that are just getting constantly healed throughout the fight. It's like, what do I do to counter this? But, look, the reality is healing does... it works better against some unit types than others. So as an example, it works really well against Siege, because the Mangonel, as an example, does AoE damage, big AoE damage, and the healing is AoE. Springald's now moving up, looking to try and find a pick. Not going to be able to. There's no siege here, but the Imperial Palace does go down once again. Now, a little bit of a bug you can exploit in your own games. The moment this gets repaired, it will start having this line of sight back. You can't use the special ability yet, but you do get that line of sight, which is why often you'll see players just repair this landmark to like 1 health. I do this quite often, and it's funny because the Barbican has this bug as well. But basically, you just repair the landmark like 1 little inch of health, and it will give you full line of sight back. So, I mean, some people might say it's an exploit, but it's like, bro, this has been in the game for like 3 years now. It's been reported for 3 years, and the devs still haven't fixed it. Don't look at me, man. Like, I'm sorry, but it's not my fault. At this stage, we're this deep into Age of Empires 4, should have been fixed in patch like 1.6, man. We're on like, what, Season 7, Season 8 now? It's been a while. But speaking of been a while, have a look at this. Look, this is a good size army right here. Real decent amount of units here, but it's always scary when you get up to this many ranged units, just because a Mangonel is so effective against it. So it becomes really important for you to win the siege war, which is why we do see that investment into Springalds now coming through. One thing to note is that getting past these keeps, it's going to need you to have bombards. That's really important. So we can see he's got a little bit of space in the bank here if he wants to go into a bombard. But even then, just 1 bombard's probably not going to do it. You're probably going to need 2, just because Vils can technically heal up 1 bombard. But Corvinus now capturing all 3 sacred sites. Important to note, we don't have stone walls on this south side, but he definitely is serious about holding these sacred sites. Look at this, double keeps on the south side, both with cannon emplacements coming through. This is a man who means business. So you're 100% going to need something to deal with this significant infrastructure on the sacred sites. Another thing to note, this could be a great point to leverage from, because you do have the Great Wall Gatehouse nearby. So perhaps it is a good idea to think about moving on to somewhere else. Now, I suspect this is only the first time he's realized that there's actually 2 keeps down here, but we do see the transition to elite units coming through. On the other side of the map, improved processing is coming through as well for Corvinus 1, so definitely moving into a more economic focus here. The final and most, or the simplest one to actually take, obviously we've got God Vision, so we know, is going to be that sacred site towards the north. But now the cannon emplacement starting to do work. He's going to put pressure on this sacred site timer. 8 minutes and 4 seconds. He's just looking to decap it at this point. Also to get rid of a couple of cheaper units, right? Like there's Springals. There's Spearmen here together with the crossbows, but I suspect he's going to be wanting to replace them. So normally at this stage of the game, what we're looking to transition into... Oh my god, the... Oh lord! Oh, did you see the nest of bees? Great Wall Gatehouse demonstrating why it is not to be messed with right there. Wow, it absolutely obliterated that army, dude. Look at it go. Wow, you're going to need yourself some medical centers after that one. Oh, it's going again. It's going again 3 times. Oh, my lord. Look. Oh, dude. I tell you what, I'm normally done after 2, but 3 times? Man, you got to get yourself checked. That is impressive. Jeez, Great Wall Gatehouse. We know you are popular with the ladies, that is for sure. But unfortunately, this bombard is going to be going down. Roller Shutter Trigger's almost certainly through. Indeed, it is through here. So Bombard is just going to continue rolling up and just continue dying, even though it's a clock tower. Man, did you see that Springled with that Nessa beam placement? That is wild. Now, keep in mind, Corvinus 1 still holds the Sacred Site. We've got ourselves, speaking of Sacred Sites, we've got more fights towards the top side. We got ourselves, you know, I really hope that you did go grab a drink a little bit earlier in the game because we are in for an absolute brawl. Corvinus is starting to overrun this game. Look at the amount of units he's got. Really solid defense. Cannon emplacement still firing off. No cannon emplacement in this keep in particular, but it's still doing work onto the backline. So the transition that we need to see coming through from Voldemar right now is Hand Cannoneer Palace Guard. That's the normal transition we see, but that is with one condition, and that is the condition that we have gold. If we don't have gold, then we can still do crossbows instead of Hand Cannoneers. That's normally the way that we transition in the late game here. So we'll be looking out for Voldemar for that in the late game. And you can see he does have a decent amount of resources in the bank. He's just gone and spent it all, a whole bunch on Plate Cutter Point as well as Siege Works. So Plate Cutter Point almost to me indicates that he's thinking about going into Juku Nu, which wouldn't really make sense. We do see he's got Hand Cannoneers coming out. I'm 99% sure they don't get affected by Plate Cutter Point though. Nesta B's getting some decent value here. You can see the siege getting caught awkwardly between the Imperial Palace and the keep. He's going to turn around here. Not a lot of room to move. Horseman coming up on the inside. Bombard helping out with a couple of shots. Also got the barbecue, but keep in mind, we are still working down that Sacred Site timer. 6 minutes and 43. He is non-stop pumping, and remember, look at the upgrades that are coming through. He is just pumping trash into this choke point right now. We got Horsemen. We got a couple of spears joining the party as well. No archers just yet. I'd love to see a little bit of an Archibald begin to build. You guys know I'm a big fan of Archibald, but let's check in on that south side and see how we're doing. Keep not really repaired yet at this stage. Hopefully he keeps Springolds down here. Springolds are realistically all you need to stop any real threat. Springolds on 2 or 3 vills slowly repairing the keep, I think, is going to be the big factor. But now going to be looking to attack upon a different angle. Have a look at this. Just going to be going down the guts. Definitely an interesting choice for him. Could look to go down the guts. Could even potentially think about threatening a landmark snipe. That's always an option. But huge army now starting to come out from Corvinus. Look at the size of that thing. Camels in the back offering that camel support. We talked about it earlier. A little bit of extra armor. Hand Cannoneers starting to fire off. Nesta B's nowhere to be seen. It's just Springolds and Bombard. So he's feeling pretty decent about this push. Indeed, he's looking good as well. Incendiary arrows now coming through. Camels and those crossbows doing a decent job on the backline. But look at the spears, the amount of trash he's got coming in here. More production going to be thrown down. Another Bombard coming up the rear. He's already got 3 online, which is normally where I'm saying is, you know, you can call it at 3. Maybe we want Nesta B's, but speaking of Nesta B's from the top rope, down on that south side, the Great Wall Gatehouse says, hey man, I'm still down here if you want to help out. And indeed, they do want a little bit of assistance. More units rallied towards the middle. Gulams, Spearmen, any kind of unit, he'll take it. But unfortunately, it looks like the cannons, the Bombards, are a little bit too strong. Able to one-shot down a lot of these units on the back line especially. And now those spearmen on the front. Keep in mind, these are trashy spearmen, but they are very good spearmen. They've got the Phalanx upgrade for extra range. They've got Boot Camp for extra, I was going to say extra movement speed. That is not true. Extra health. And they've got camel support coming through from these camels on the back, giving them a little bit of extra armor. So these are really good trash units that are helping out in this battle. Still, we don't see any incendiary arrows. Nesta B's coming through, and the siege is coming online. The kid is looking to assemble like Siegey Cutie would be on a Sunday night. Have a look at this guy right now. He has got so much siege. This is where you just need to transition into Horsemen. You just need a big transition into Horsemen. But the problem is, there's no way you're just getting 15 Horsemen out on the field right now. And even if you do, like there's going to be units that come out here that are going to be able to counter you. You know that there's going to be some sort of spearman threat that amounts here. But let's take a look and see what we've got for the unit counts at the moment. 83 versus 18. Corvinus 1 in trouble right now. Not looking good for him. Keep coming up on the front line. Also, a keep coming up for Corvinus 1 on the defense. He needs to fall back. But the problem is this tempo, this push right now from Corvinus, from Voldemar, he doesn't even care about the sacred sites. He says, take your sacred sites, man. I don't want them. I'm just going to go for the throat. And that's exactly what he does. 4 Bombards now. More Nesta B's coming on the way. Palace Guards for days right now. These guys have got their elite upgrades. He's in the Yuan dynasty, so he's got extra movement speed. I don't think he's got... Has he picked up Battle Hardened? He has picked up Battle Hardened, so these guys are well and truly operating at full capacity in this game. 3 minutes on that Sacred Victory, by the way. I don't even think it's going to matter. I think Corvinus might be in trouble here. The population, the military advantage is just too significant. Vils up the back. Have a look at this. Going to try their best to take out the Nesta B's. Vils pull to repair. And unfortunately, Corvinus loses a whole bunch of Vils in that fight. Outpost now going to get thrown down on the backside. This push continues to come to shove. Nesta B's nowhere to be seen on this western flank, but they're not even needed at this point. The keeps go down, and with that, that sacred site is going to be neutralized, but just by a single palace guard, it looks like. A couple of Crossbowmen also moving out there and able to now start camping production, moving past that internal wall. It's now broken down. More spears coming through. We can't build enough units quickly enough. His economy's huge. He's got 5.7k on that income per minute compared to his opponent, who's sitting at pretty much, in fact, is sitting at exactly the exact same amount of resources. 5.7k per minute from both of these guys, and now this is where it gets done. Ladies and gentlemen, if there is ever the sign of a nail being put into a coffin, it is when the palace guards get behind the enemy lines. This is not fun because you've got units that are running at 1.58 movement speed that are just not countered by anything that can catch them, with the exception of maybe a Lancer. That's pretty much it. He manages to catch them, though. The problem is he's taking away from that front line, and we can see more and more units coming through. Bombard's just having a field day back here. The Keep going to be able to support them, so anything that tries to get up here to take these Bombards down, it's going to have such a hard time because of this Keep. We also now start to see incendiary arrows coming through. Hasn't really moved into a lot of hand cannoneers, and I think that might be just because of the lack of gold on the map that he's got. When it comes to trade as well, he's got no trade online at the moment, at least, yeah, it doesn't appear to have any trade online at the moment. So moving into crossbows, or staying into crossbows, is going to make the most sense. 37 palace guards in the rear with the gear. This is it. I can't see. Oh, I thought they were Grens for a second. I was like, oh my god, there's Grens. There's not really Grens. You'd be crazy to go Grens. Grens are too expensive. Not just the unit themselves, but actually teching into them as well. Makes it a very difficult argument. Now continuing to push forward with the Bombards. Able to take out all this production. With no production, there's no units. And with no units, you got yourself no hope. Ladies and gentlemen, Corvinus won. He is on his last legs. If we can have a moment of silence for him, I'm going to have a quick swig of the Red Bull. And that is going to be it. What a game. Ladies and gentlemen, go check him out. I'll leave a link in the description to where you can watch both of them. I'll leave a link for Corvinus live over on Twitch. And of course, if you haven't already seen the kid on YouTube, I'll leave a link to that. You got to check him out. He is an absolute brilliant guy. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.